What's poppin' people, ssjaipom here with our first episode of Aipom's Dojo, and we're starting things off light with today's subject. If you missed the memo, this is going to be the series on the channel that preps you guys for switching over to traditional fighting games. If you searched the subject of this video and found the channel that way, hi there. Traditional fighting games change small details from series to series. There's always going to be minor differences that kind of set them apart and build longtime fans. But a universal feature is the existence of buttons. As obvious as that seems to kind of say, buttons are at the core of each and every fighting game. In general, you press a button and you kind of expect to see a result on the screen. In most cases, all your character's techniques and attacks are assigned to buttons, whether this be a 4-button setup, a 6-button setup, or anything in between. Today's subject is all about button mashing though. It's a very common practice that you'll see from beginners starting off in fighting games. Button mashing is usually the practice of pressing random buttons with or without random joystick movements. I'll be 100% transparent here and tell you that this is how I played most fighting games when I was younger, and I still kind of do it to this day when I'm picking up a fighting game for the first time and testing out characters. Seeing your character do things as you press buttons feels pretty good and it gives you a sense of control, and I can also imagine that seeing random special moves like the Shoryuken or the Hadouken fly out gives you the impression that you're doing something right. Of course, the pros aren't button mashing on the tournament scene. Instead, they're pressing buttons that trigger their moves that are most sufficient for the task at hand and doing combos that require quite a bit of execution and knowledge on their character to perform well. I'll give you an example. In the event that an opponent is jumping towards you and you know that you have a special move or a basic button that deals with the incoming aerial attacker, it should be kinda obvious what your course of action should be. However, if you're button mashing, even though you know what the character has a tool to use to deal with the situation, you're gonna end up having to take their offense. In some fighting games, getting hit like this can cost you the entire game. This is known as a counter hit. That sounds a bit extreme, right? It gets even crazier when you learn that in most games, different buttons send out attacks at different speeds. Imagine trying to throw out random punches against like a boxing champion known for having an incredibly fast jab. Replace that boxing champion with a top fighting game community competitor that knows what their buttons do, and replace yourself with a beginner trying their best to get out as many random super attacks as possible. As you can see, there's going to be a huge difference in skill and execution. That gets even crazier in games that make you take more damage for being hit while throwing out your attacks and getting punished. Again, counter hits are kinda crazy, and you want to avoid taking as many of those as possible. So what exactly can we do about button mashing? The answer is super simple, but your results are going to be all up to you. Our best friend in this series is going to be training mode. Almost every fighting game has one, and if you're a beginner, the first thing you need to know is that nobody became super good without practicing first. In a fighting game, if there's a character you're interested in learning, the first thing you want to get down is their basic attacks, or buttons in this case. If you're playing a fighting game like Injustice 2 or Guilty Gear, you'll notice that a lot of characters feel different in how fast their attacks come out or how much damage they can deal out, or even super blatant differences in their animations. This is great for kind of finding a feel of the characters you want. And for me personally, when I'm picking up a new fighting game, I usually like to go through the roster on training mode and just kind of button mash to see if a character has things that I like for how I feel the most natural playing the game. In some cases, this means that I've either got to adapt to how a character plays, or if I really want to play them based on their design, I kind of have to learn how to adapt that, or if not, stick to an unexpected character that plays in the exact way I'd like for them to play. Using Guilty Gear as an example again, I'm a huge fan of the character Baiken's design, but she probably has some of the most technical execution-heavy gameplay on the roster. After trying out Kai, I felt like right at home with the option of being able to fall back and rely on projectiles, and space out the enemy with my basic buttons and normal, so I was really excited actually. I hope this video taught you guys a thing or two about button mashing and fighting games in general. We'll do a brief recap section here over the terms that you guys might have learned in this episode without even knowing, so get ready.
Buttons, also known as normals. They're pretty much any attack you can pull off by using a single button press without using an input from the joystick, and in most cases without being in the air. Button mashing, pressing random buttons with or without random joystick inputs. Counter hit, an attack that hits another player while they're doing an attack. In most fighting games, these will do bonus damage or give other harmful effects to their target. Priority, this term is usually only used to describe an attack speed with comparisons. Higher priority attacks always interrupt lower priority attacks, but there are variables that will change how priority picks up which attack lands first, like hitboxes or hurtboxes. Punish, attacking an opponent who's recovering from doing attacks. It's usually easier to punish opponents that miss or whiff their own moves or use moves with long recovery.
With all of that being said, thank you for joining us in today's Fighting Games for Beginners style tutorial, and I'm hoping you join us for our next episode next week. Got any questions for us here on the channel? Drop them in the comment section below. If you're interested in seeing a dope fighting game centric channel, check out one of my biggest inspirations, Maximilian, and click the link in the description to check out his stream over on Twitch. I'll be seeing you guys in the next video if you do decide to stick around, so take care of yourselves and hit that training mode up. I'll be seeing you shortly. Bye. That's a bad outro. We need a work in progress. Jim, I think it's time to play the outro that you know, you got, I usually like to stop me from rambling. You have to.
Where have you been? I'm freaking out.